Have you ever wondered how performance testing is done? So, which is also known as perf testing basically. So, in this video, we'll learn the very basics of how one can perform the performance testing or perf testing. So, without wasting much time, let's get started. So, I just want to give a heads up of to this video, with this example of an amazing video where this guy is an cloud architect at Hotstar, and he is explaining on how performance testing is done at Hotstar. So basically, if you have seen the New Zealand and India's match of World Cup's match, basically, so this is the graph, concurrency pattern graph for the Hotstar users active during that time, and this guy is explaining very well. And performance testing is actually very important for the applications, basically the applications which will have a more user traffic. So this is a very good video. If you just want to watch, I'll surely link to the video, you can just go and watch. So the chapter 1 will start about performance testing. So what is it? So performance testing is basically a non-functional type of testing, and the goal of the performance testing is to check, find the bottlenecks for the system. And it is not like we are trying to find a bug like usually what we do in manual testing or automation testing, but this is little bit different as it's a non-functional type of testing. And basically it focuses on these three aspects: the speed of application, scalability and stability of the of your software. And by the end of this performance testing, you will have an information or idea about whether to invest money on your infrastructure, or you have invested more of it. So as we now know that what is the performance testing, we should also know what are the types of it and how we can perform it. So the first basic thing is load testing, and as the name suggests, guys, this is very easy to get. So the load testing is the test. Here we will test the ability to perform in expected user traffic. So let's say we have some website, and we expect that there will be at least 100 users for this 100 active users for this website. So the load testing is nothing but to test the ability to how well the application is handling all those 100 users. Then we have something called stress testing. So basically here we test the ability to perform under high traffic load. So let's say we have 100 users, but we expect 100 users, but it is not necessary. The users can exceed also from whatever how we have expected. So let's say we expected 100 users, but there is also a possibility that we may have more than 100 users. So stress testing does that. So in stress testing, we usually test the ability to perform very uh, high traffic load. So this is what we do in stress testing. Then the third type is endurance testing. So we test the traffic according to the according to the active users, but the endurance testing is a little bit different. So here basically we test the ability to perform under expected user traffic over a long period of time. So as we increase the number of users over here, we increase the number of active time per user. So it may also happen that your servers or your infrastructure is not good enough to actively handle the active traffic. So this endurance testing does that. Then we have something called spike testing. So here we test the ability of a software to perform under sudden spike of a traffic created by the users. So this is very interesting. Let's say you can take an example of Amazon, and let's say the sale is starting from 8 p.m. today. So Amazon servers would expect more traffic or sudden spike of traffic at 8 p.m. So that's the test case for us to test the ability to perform our software under the spike. So spike testing does that for us. And then lastly, we have something called volume testing. So let's say we have lots of the data coming from the backend. So how well our applications are our application is able to handle those larger data transactions. So here we test basically the speed of application. So these are the popular or very well-known types of performance testing. So now that we have an idea about performance testing and why we do that, and actually what are the types of it, so let's get to know about JMeter. So once you now you know that how we can what is the performance testing. The second question would be how we can do that. So to do or to perform the perf testing, there are so many applications in the market that you can use. So these are the popular applications: BlazeMeter, then JMeter, Eggplant, and all of those. But out of all of them, JMeter, Apache JMeter is very well known because as it's open source, and there are lots of advantages over other performance testing applications. So basically, or tools, or you can also say. So let's get to know about something called JMeter. This you can also consider exploring by yourself. These other whatever you can say tools or applications. So before we actually start to know about JMeter, let's understand the how JMeter can help us do performance testing. So the first thing that you need to consider is when you deploy your application, there might be a server, or server is nothing but a machine only, where you have deployed your applications and all those stuff. But let's say it also has some limitation because your server might not have infinite storage and infinite bandwidth of network. So of is it is like it is expected to have a limited hardware over here, and as we have limited hardware, we might support a limited number of users. So this performance testing, let's say these are the real users, and in real world the real users might send their traffic over the internet to the server that where we have deployed our application. But before that, before we open those applications to the real world users, we might need to perform a performance testing. So how we can do that? So to do that, we will need something called virtual users. So those are not actual users, but those users will help us to perform to simulate the real traffic or real load on our server that where we have deployed the applications. So these are nothing but threads and if you know operating system, you might also be aware about the threads. So each thread we can use to simulate one virtual users. So let's say we want to simulate 1,000 users of traffic, so we can create 1,000 virtual threads, and those all threads can send requests simultaneously to the application. So that's how basically the JMeter will help us. JMeter in the backend will create threads only. So this is the basic working of JMeter. So obviously we would need some reason over other applications for the JMeter to actually take it in use. So these are some reasons for which you want to use the JMeter. So the first of all, JMeter is open source, which means it's free, and also JMeter is industry standard because JMeter is built on top of Java, so it will follow all the rules and standards that we might need for the industry. And as it is built on top of Java, it can run on any machine. So because obviously Java is a platform independent language, so that's why JMeter is also platform independent. Then you have JMeter is open source, so you will have an open source license for the JMeter, so you don't need to worry about where you will go for the support of JMeter. Again, it is as it built on top of Java. It has a very friendly GUI which you can easily adapt with. Then it has a very simple, lightweight, and platform independent, as I already told you, because it is built on top of Java. Then it provides the visualization of easy visualization of the reports that you will create by using JMeter. Again, it is very easy to install. It is highly extensible. and it supports multiple protocols. So because it is built in top of Java, and in Java, if you are aware, you can make any type of request, whether it is get, post, or any kind of request that you can imagine. So these are the reasons for you to adapt with JMeter. So the next thing is activity 1. So here we will try to install JMeter, and installation of JMeter is really very easy. So the installation of Apache JMeter is really very easy. So the first step is you need to make sure that you have Java installed in your machine. So if you want to check if you have Java installed in your machine or not, you can open command prompt and you can just type Java hyphen version, and you will see this kind of thing. You will see Java version that is installed in your machine. If you don't see this, that means you don't have Java installed, or you might not have updated the environment variable for the Java. So make sure if you have Java installed, you also have Java environment variable or everything set up, so that you can run Java from anywhere inside, like from your system, and you will see this kind of message. If you don't see this kind of message and you are unsure that you don't have Java in your machine, what you can do is you can just go on Oracle website, and you can just download any of the LTS version of latest LTS version of Java. And currently it is JDK 21. Maybe when you see this video in future it might change, but for now, if you want, you can just go ahead and download according to your machine. You can download the latest LTS version, and then later on you can also set the environment variable and everything. So this step is done. Now that you have Java installed, the second step is to install JMeter. And JMeter installation is very easy. You can just go ahead and type Apache JMeter, and you will be landed on this website. You can just go ahead and download any binary file, right? It will take some time to download. Let's wait for that. So we have JMeter successfully downloaded. It will be a zip file only. So one thing you need to make sure that currently the latest Apache JMeter version is 5.6.3, and it requires Java 8 plus. So make sure you have Java 8 plus before you download this file. Now we can go ahead and open the zip file that we have downloaded. We can just extract the zip file over here. Okay, so now that we have the folder extracted, we can just go inside this folder. And currently I am on Windows. If you are on any other machine other than Windows, you can just go ahead and run this file, shell script. You can just in your command prompt or terminal or shell, whatever you have, you can just execute this shell script file. It will open the JMeter. But for the Windows, there will be a bash script file or bat file over here. Just a second. Okay, for the Windows you have this executable jar file, so you can just click on the Apache JMeter jar file and it will start Apache JMeter. So this is the GUI for Apache JMeter, and you have successfully installed Apache JMeter in your system. So we have successfully completed the installation of JMeter and also the activity 1. Now chapter 3 is how we can write tests in JMeter. So basically how we can write the performance test inside the JMeter. So before we actually start with the JMeter, writing test cases in JMeter, we should be aware about JMeter elements. So different elements or the different components of the JMeter is nothing but they are referred as JMeter elements, and each elements will have their own individual purpose. So the basic ones are listed here: thread group, sampler, listener, and configuration elements. There are so many other elements of the JMeter, and these are just the basic ones that you need to write your first test case inside JMeter. So the first one is thread group, and thread group is nothing but the, let's say, how many users we want to simulate. So the thread groups will allow us to configure traffic for the test. Then sampler is nothing but the let's say we want to make some request, let's say HTTP request. We want to make a post request on some API server or something like that. So sampler is nothing but the element which allows us to make those requests. Then listeners is nothing but the data that we will interpret. So that we can configure so many different types of listeners, let's say table, tree, graph, and everything we can configure through this JMeter element called listeners. And then we have something called configuration element. So this allows us to program the let's say this element, configuration element. It allows us to configure the flow of test case execution. So these are the basic ones that you need to be aware with. And basically now the second activity will involves the practical demo with the JMeter, where we'll see all those basic JMeter elements that we have seen earlier in earlier slides. So let's get started. So before we actually start with the JMeter GUI, before we start configuring the test, which we need to go inside the bin folder, and we can create two new folders. So the first folder will store all the test plans, and make sure you don't have space in your name, like folder name. Then we create another folder to store the reports, right? So this folder will hold all the reports, and this folder will hold all the test plans. So this is one of my project hosted on GitHub, and this is also one of my project hosted on GitHub. So this thing has lots of images running or loading in the background, and this thing has nothing. This is just the plain GUI, HTML, CSS, and JS. So we'll perform test on this one, this thing, and we'll perform test on this one also. So let's just see for one user how much time it is taking, and then we'll see the exact example. So as we want to test the web application, we can go inside file, templates, and we can select the template called building a web template. It will also give you a useful link. You can just go ahead and explore the web test plan for this on this site. We can hit create, and as we clicked on the create, it will create the basic template for us. So there are lots of things configured over here. So basically this is scenario 1 that you see over here. This is nothing but a thread group. As you can see, this is a thread group. We can just rename it, let's say test homepage, right? So under this thread group, all the things that we want to see or we want to perform will be here. We can also rename the test plan, let's say test GitHub project, right? We can give comments, but I'll prefer to leave as it is. So this is a thread group. As you can see, you can configure the number of threads or the number of users that you want, and you can see number of threads, and in brackets they have mentioned users. Then ramp up period. So ramp up period is nothing but the amount of time it will take to these 5 threads to become active. So it won't be like suddenly all those 5 threads will be activated, but over a period of 5 seconds all those 5 threads will be executed. And loop count, which means how many times each thread should throw the request. So basically we don't want it to go infinitely, let's say 1. Now the test will hold until 60 seconds. If before 60 seconds all the threads are done with the test, done with the execution, then it will exit. But if not, it will go up till 60 seconds, and if there are some threads left, it won't proceed further after 60 seconds. And startup delay. So basically, after we start the simulation, it will take 5 seconds of delay, and then it will start. So this is the basic configuration of our traffic. And remember, if you want to create thread groups, you can go and click on this project test plan basically, and you can create a right click, add threads and thread group. So that's how you can create thread group. Then inside thread groups, you can add so many things like samplers, logic, assertions, timers, listeners. As you have selected the template, you don't need to do any such things. So this thing called HTTP request default, here basically it will have our the basic setup of our application. So the protocol that we are going to use is nothing but HTTPS, because I have the URL, and it is HTTPS basically. And then we'll just copy the URL, and for the basic setup. So I have copied the URL. Now for the basic setup, we can mention the protocol over here, HTTPS. Then we can paste the link. Now we can't put the entire link over here. We need to separate it actually. So the HTTPS part will go over here. Then server name or IP address will be this much only, learning z github.io, and then we can cut the rest of the part. And for the path, we can just copy the path over here, internship tasks. So this is the default request. If we have not specified over here, and this is basically HTTP request, so it will take the default HTTP request that we have mentioned over here. And these are cookie managers and header managers. So basically we don't need any of this. We can just remove all of this. Now we can create our home page. So home page request, and the default thing that we have mentioned over here is nothing but a home page. So we don't need to mention any kind of protocol, server IP, port number or path over here. Now this is over here under this home page, they have mentioned something called assertion. And assertion is nothing but something called let's say we want to verify whether the home page is loaded correctly or not. So we should have some element that is unique to this home page. So those things we can mention in the assertions. Let's say we have this thing called go anywhere from here. So we can just right click, view page source, and from here we can just copy this h1 tag which is unique to this page, and we can then replace this thing, right? So this is how we will assert this page. Then we don't need any think time, so we'll remove this, yes. And we don't need anything page returning 0404, so we can also remove this. And now this is basically it. We can just go ahead and run our program, but before that we should add something called listeners, and we can add aggregate report, which is nothing but the kind of a report. So this is nothing but the basic setup of your test case, or first test for your Apache JMeter. So now what it will do is, it will create 5 threads, and it will try to fetch the result, fetch this URL that we have mentioned over here. Then it will try to assert the page through the pattern that we have selected, so that we have entered over here, and then it will give us the reports. So let's try to run this. And when we try to run this, it will ask you to save the program or save the file actually. So we can just go one folder up, we can have test plans, right? And inside test plan we can save the file, and we can just wait for the program to run. So once the test is completed, you can see inside the reports there will be so many things to explore. The first thing is you should explore this view result tree, and inside this you will see the request that each thread is making. So as we have created five threads, so you will see 5 requests that went to the home page, and home page is nothing but the URL that we have mentioned over here, right? And if you just explore this, you find all the requests are passed, and if you go inside aggregate report, you won't find any errors over here. And these are the things. So for the home page we took 5 samples, and 5 samples means there were 5 threads that made a request on the home page, and this is the average response time, 113 milliseconds. Then this is the median, and these are other reports. And on the summary report you can see basically average time, minimum response time, maximum response time, standard deviation, errors, throughputs, and everything. So this is how you perform your first test inside JMeter. And now uh, we can see we will see the difference between having a blank page, so a page where there are no resources or less resources, and this page where there are lots of images and lots of things to load. You will see that the difference in the average response time over here. You can see current is 113 milliseconds. So we can just go over here, we can just change the thing. So for HTTPS we can just mention it over here, and server name is this is also one of my GitHub hosted project, and the root thing will go so the path will go over here. So this is how we'll set up for the newer for this thing to test for performance testing of this project. Now for this, before we actually start to run this test, we should actually clear all of those reports. But let's just change the name, and let's say the name is game homepage, and we can run the program or run the test now. So basically you can see we have both of the results, because if we don't clear the result will show over here only. And for the game homepage we also took 5 samples, and this is the average response time. As you can see, the average response time is higher because there are so many resources to load, and we have 100% error because we didn't change the assertion that we have it over here. So let's just do that. So for this page we have we can just go and type something called view hyphen source, and we can just go over here, and we have so many things actually. Yes, we have this thing, main menu layer, so we can just copy this whole thing and we can just change it, right? So this is the thing that we want to verify on the game home page. And now before we run the test, we will clear all the things, so all the reports will be back to the normal, back to the clear position, and we can run the test again. So as you will see, the test is executed successfully. There are no errors, and you will see this is the average response time, which is obviously greater than 113 milliseconds. That was before for this project, which doesn't have any resources to have a larger number of response time. And you will see all those values that were lower, all those values are higher. So the max response time, minimum response time, all those values will be higher. So this is how you can perform performance testing, perf testing also you can say that. And what you can do is you can increase the number of users, but we make sure that your system is capable to handle all those threads. Do not put any random value, let's say 5,000 of users, because currently if I just go and inspect inside my task manager, we can see. So if we go inside the task manager in Windows, inside the CPU section under the performance, you will see currently how many threads my machine is handling. So it is handling currently 3,000 threads, and I have 16 GB of memory, and this is the CPU specification. So you can check out the what is the upper limit of threads in your machine, and you can accordingly experiment the value over here. Let's just let me put 50, and that's the normal thing for me. So this is how you can configure and use JMeter basically. So that's it for this video. Thank you for listening to the Video Geeks, and I hope you have got the idea about the basics of performance testing and how you can use JMeter. If you want me to make more videos, more detailed videos on performance testing, do let me know in the comment section, and we'll meet in the next video. Till then, keep learning and keep exploring.